Special thank you to Seed and Stone Cidery and Lucky Buzz Meadery for sponsoring the show today. They help to make this show possible and supply us with the occasional beverage when we're out there. They've got 10 taps full of meads and ciders made right there in-house. They've also got all sorts of awesome events going on, including an open mic almost every single Thursday where you can come out and show your musical talent. So all you songwriters out there, stop out and grab a cider or a mead and tell them that the Songwriters Couch and the Patrick Joanne Band sent you. Again, Seed and Stone Cidery right here in Rochester, New York. Go out and visit them and let them know we sent you. Thanks, guys. All right, so welcome to episode number lucky 13 with the lovely Dani Felt. Dani Felt, thank you for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. And I want to thank especially our sponsors, Seed and Stone, and whomever else is in the beginning of this episode. That's our sponsors this week. Thank you for sponsoring the show. You make everything that we do possible. And thank you to everyone who watches. And before we even start, go down there, click subscribe, click like, and if you like anything or hate anything during this episode, please write a comment down there, except if it's against Dani. If it's against me, you can hate on me all you want. Don't hate on Dani. She's lovely and a very sweet young lady. So I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate the not asking for the hate comments thing.
And then on top of that, thank you for joining all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. We're in different time zones, so we're floating across time and space here to get this done. And not only are we floating across time and space, but we're also utilizing multiple cameras and angles and devices and things. And we took about 3 hours to get this all configured and set up. But I think it's at this point we're going to have the best that we could possibly have. So I appreciate it. So how are you doing, Dani? How was your day today? Were you busy?
I was watching Bridgerton. I'm obsessed now. I watched the entire 2 seasons in 2 days. So that's
how's the music in Bridgerton?
It is so good. I remember like when I was learning, when they were first going to film, and they were asking for all these cover songs, like pop songs of like classical versions of pop songs. But it was so cool when you actually saw it in real time in the show and you're like, oh, this is what they were talking about. I get it now. It's really cool. Like the whole thing is like classical. Huh. So yeah.
Oh, and they're like remaking the pop songs or taking like recordings. Mm-hmm. Interesting things.
They take all these like famous pop songs and they create classical arrangements because it takes place in like the king, queen era. So everything's like classical and like proper and like it's really cool to like hear classical arrangements of all these pop songs.
I feel like that's an interesting thing to get into. So I'm gonna what do you say, whiteboard it? I'm gonna put this up on the whiteboard for us to talk about later because syncing music is kind of an important thing in the music business nowadays. I think it's the only thing that's making money nowadays, except for remastering already made albums that sold millions already in the past. But I want to thank you again for being on the show. And why don't you introduce yourself to people out there, like where they can find your stuff? I always forget, like during the show, I get engrossed in the conversation, Dani, and then I forget to ask you, like, where can people find your stuff and what are you doing and what do you want them to know? So why don't we start with that and then we'll get into the conversation.
Sure. Hey guys, my name is Dani Felt. I am a music industry consultant. You can find more information at danifelt.com. I also have a music mentorship program now. You can find that at musicindustry.access.com. You can find my music at danifeltmusic.com or just connect with me on Facebook, Dani Felt.
Excellent. So yeah, so that's part of, and we were talking before the podcast started about how we had kind of met, and what happened as to how we got connected, and part of that was our networking habits, I guess you can say, are very similar. So the way I tend to connect with other musicians sometimes is I'll see them talking to a musician that I already know, and I tend to not just friend randomly people, like especially if they're into industry in some way. Generally, you think, okay, someone's a musician, they're trying to friend me, they like want something, or they want to like and while that's true, right, you want to have some connections that are meaningful and have some relevance to your life and your career and all that. I don't ever want someone to think that I'm friending them because I need to further my career or whatever. It's just they're doing interesting things, and so I'm interested in what they're doing that maybe what I'm not doing, or music that they're making, or parts of the business that they're getting involved with that I've not get involved with. So part of that was with Adam, right? So I believe we both know Adam, and we'll keep his last name obscured because he hasn't agreed to be in this episode, but Adam from Rochester here, and I think that's how we ended up getting connected. And I've seen you kind of progress through, what you're doing over the years, just through Facebook, and you have the mentorship, and you have some other stuff that you're involved with. So what are you doing now? Why don't we explain kind of where you're at and what your what your pursuits are right now?
I just launched this music industry mentorship, where people get to access to me and different consultants in the music industry for a year. So I'm very excited about it. I wanted to build something that would help connect artists to people in the industry, because I know so many people in the industry. And so I felt like it would make sense to give them an opportunity, kind of like a virtual music conference, but for the whole year with different experts. So people in sync licensing, publishers, booking agents, marketers, every topic you could think of related to the music industry.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I feel like people struggle a lot with getting connected to things, and there's this old thought process, I feel like, nowadays with the way that the music industry is or was, where it's like, okay, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna play a show, I'm gonna get discovered by some A&R rep out at a show, they're gonna pay for my my record, my recording, all this stuff, and I'm going to get discovered, and I'm going to make it big. And I feel like nowadays the music industry has changed so much, where as an independent musician, you have to really do most of that. You have to be a business in and of yourself, and then go out and reach some level of success before a record company will even consider looking at you, let alone do you want to consider a record company, right? I feel like nowadays it's almost, do you want to get involved with a record company? Because what they're basically, and I had this conversation with someone maybe 2 days ago about record companies basically just being banks. They're like loaning you money, and then over time you have to pay them back, and with interest and all this sort of thing. And it's like, if you've already reached the level or any level of success, then you can get to the next level as long as you network with the right people. And I think you almost don't need the record company. And what you see is artists, big artists like Taylor Swift, like Prince back in the day, abandoning their record companies after they've realized that, I have enough contacts and I have enough pull now to not need their money to do what I'm doing, because I'm doing it all already, right? So they're almost like investing in you. And I feel like you've got this networking capability and talent that's really important to be successful in the music industry. So where did that come from? Like, what are you? You were a songwriter and singer first? Are you an artist first, and then kind of the production and the business side of it is second? Or are you starting to like feel that the business side of it is first now? Like, where do you find yourself sitting in the industry,
Great question. I would say I first built networking abilities from going to overnight camps. I went to this one in Pennsylvania, and it was like, there was like a music program, and I remember like I didn't know anyone, and they're like, you just have to go up to people and start talking to them and introduce yourself. And I started doing that. And I was like, this is really fun. I like talking to people and connecting with people and just totally talking to strangers and hoping for the best. So I'd say that was one of like the first keys for me to just like practice being outgoing and just like talking to people.
Nice. Can I interrupt
the second
briefly, Dani, for 1 second?
Sorry, what?
No, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I'm not going to ask you your age, but I have a feeling you're much younger than me. And so I feel like you're the generation that's younger than me sometimes has issues with the networking thing, because there's this the online relationships, I guess, that people have nowadays that make the kind of the in-person thing. Because you just said it was kind of a little scary to be out there and talking to people, right? And just started doing that. But I'm guaranteeing, like, probably where you're going next is that brought some level of success, right, to you, or at least a spark of something that was like, oh, like if I talk to people or if I meet people and interact with individuals, I'll be able to kind of break through some of these barriers that I feel are there, right?
Yeah, definitely. So
like there.
The second thing that really drove me to learning networking is that I created a compilation album in college to raise money for this organization called the Linda Creed Breast Cancer Foundation. And through that, I realized it's really fun to manage something and to be in charge of something and to bring people together for a cause and to lead. And so that was like the first opportunity I really had to become a leader and step up and realize, I like doing more than just music. I like leading and using music to make impacts. So that was kind of like the second key that brought me to start networking. And then the third was my music blog. Before that, I didn't really know as many people. And I would Facebook friend all these musicians that went to Berklee. And I started messaging them and telling them, hey, I'd love to put you on my music blog. And I kind of assumed they'd all be good because they went to Berklee, right? So I was just like friending all these Berklee musicians and was like putting them all on my blog. And then,
is that the case? Were they all excellent musicians?
They were all good. There's a lot of singer-songwriters, but it's like really funny when I think about it, because then everyone's like, how do you know this person? I'm like, oh, just like Facebook. Yeah. They're on my blog. I featured this person on my blog. Do you want to be on my blog? And that's kind of how it works. When you have some people, other people get on board because you have those people, and then it kept going and going and going. And before you knew it, I had over 300 interviews in a few years, and everyone was coming to me as like the answer to promote their music. So it was all about networking. Manifest
destiny, as they say, right? Like, so. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you just started reaching out to people, and it's surprising. I remember a young musician coming up to me once. I was playing some show. He's like, oh, you're doing all this amazing stuff. Like, you've gotten on, these TV shows and radio and all this stuff, and you're playing these cool gigs. And for me, it was like, yeah, these are like little things, right? I want to be like on this next level. But thinking about that, and he's like, how did you get onto, I think it was a TV spot or something. I was like, well, I kind of just asked. Like, I reached out to the host and said, can I be on the show? And it's surprising what that'll get you. And I feel like you do that, Dani. I feel like you're in that same boat. You Facebook friend, and then yeah, you're talking, and it's not all about, I feel like you have a real desire to have actual relationships, because you can relate to those kind of people, people that are making music and doing things and creating stuff. And I'm in the same boat. Like, I'm not just like, you can't just friend someone on Facebook and then be like, give me this, right?
I mean, you can. Yeah. It won't get you very far, but you can do it. Go for it and see what happens.
Yeah, piece of advice for anyone that's doing that or networking online. Don't just friend and then the first message you send, hey, can I can I have something from you, right? Maybe introduce yourself, tell them what you're doing. Hey, I really like, maybe look into what they're doing a little bit, right? And
I'll have people just right away friend me and then invite me to like their page right after without even talking to me. I'm like, cool.
it's about relationship building, and I think that's an important part of the music business now, because it's so saturated. There's so much ability to get music out and distributed, that it's so saturated with people that that want to make money from it. Like I have this thing inside of me of making music. It's part of me. You know what I mean? Like making music, creating things. It's like a fulfillment. And I feel like I think there's a lot of musicians out there and young artists out there that are doing that too. But I think that the art of networking is building relationships. And I think that if you're going to get into the business side of the music industry, especially now, being able to build those relationships is very important. So what have you found to be I guess a way to be successful with those networking relationships with the people that you've reached out to? Because you can reach out and say, hey, be on the show. And like I said, asking, can I, or whatever, like asking the question first is important, right? How did you get on that? Well, I just asked, but I didn't just ask cold out of nowhere. Like I got to know them a little bit, and then I said, hey, I see you're doing this cool thing. Could I be a part of that, right? So like if you had any advice to give, I guess would be my question here.
I would say start with your intention and like what your goals are, right? And then base the people you connect with based on those goals. So for example, if you're like, I want to be in sync licensing, I want to find other people in sync or that have a passion for doing sync to collaborate with, then connect with the producers and artists and songwriters. Connect with the people you see on Facebook that say, I just got a placement, or I'm looking to build in sync, or I'm looking for people to write with, or like find writing camps or music organizations. Like if your goal is finding a band, putting together a band, figure out, okay, these are the key people I need in my band. Now, where do I go connect with those people? Is it open mics? Is it going to live shows? Is it musician Facebook groups or musician organizations? Is it networking events? So I would say one of the biggest keys is like start with your goals. Be really intentional with who you're looking to connect with, and it will increase your chances of connecting with them versus going to an event and just being like, I'm just going to talk to everybody and have everyone talk to me and tell me their life story. But then like you might not necessarily meet that right person if you're not setting the intention of what you actually want. Once you're super clear, this is my goal, this is who I need to connect with, I want to get a publishing deal, I need to find other writers that are already signed to work with or collaborate with or ask them for coffee or pay them for their time to give you advice. I mean, the list goes on, but I would say the biggest key is figuring out like, what is your goal? Where do you want to go from here? And then basing like who you connect with, focus on that.
So when you go out to an event, right?
Yes.
How do you, it's interesting to like bring this up. So how do you approach someone, right? If you're at an event and you're a musician, and in your head, you're thinking, okay, I'm here for a reason. And so is everyone else generally at those.
Oh, yeah.
Events, right. There's everyone's got this business mindset, and I'll make this clear. When you're in anything, and music is definitely a business, right? You have business relationships, right, that are based upon kind of transactional things, but you also have some level of respect for the person and what have you. How do you go about like generally approaching someone if you're out at a networking event? Because I feel like you have a good mindset for.
I would walk up to them and be like, "Hey, I'm Dani. What's up? What's your name? Are you from here?" Like, something like that. Like, have you been to this event before?
Speed dating event. Is that how?
Yeah, I would just be like, hey, I'm Dani. Like, cause like, why not? You know, if it's specifically for an event to connect with other musicians, yeah, I'll introduce myself to everybody, you know?
Do you feel so? So here's something else. So I know you live in Nashville now, right? Right in the heart of.
Yes, I do.
So, but do you feel like moving to a city that's music centric gives you an advantage, or do you feel like you get thrown into the ocean after being in a pond, so to speak?
I think that's a great question. I mean, I would say if I was just in a music city for just being an artist, then I would probably find it extremely competitive, you know, because there's so much talent here. But because I work on the business side, my intentions are very much finding talent.
Yeah.
So it's very much advantageous to my business and my marketing agency. And like anything else I do, I'm looking for talent. So I don't really see it as like, oh, there's so much. But if I was just looking to just be a singer, then I might find it a bit intimidating. But it's also an incredible place to find people to collaborate with and friendships and people that you can. I mean, I have friends I've made at like the ASCAP Expo in LA like 8 years ago that, you know, we're still in touch. You know what I mean? So it's like, it just depends on your perspective of how you want to view the situation.
So one thing I probably want to clarify, I guess, for people that are watching, and especially young songwriters or people that are just getting into songwriting, because we talked a little bit about sync licensing and that sort of thing, but I think that gets a little deeper than some people kind of know about. We just talked about it like as if everyone knows about it, but I think it's a good idea to clarify that. So what is sync licensing? Like what happens when you sync a song, let's say? What does that mean?
So sync licensing is when you get music synced to a TV show, a YouTube video, a movie, a video game, any kind of audio, any kind of video content. Basically, you need like a license for it. So when you hear a commercial and you hear like the song on like the Super Bowl, or even the music that's playing, even the music that the band's playing in a TV show is like synced, right? So you could have wrote that original song and then that band could have been playing it and then you would get money because the band's playing your song, for example. So basically anything with music to video. And
with regards to Bridgerton, right? Because you were talking about the classical take on pop songs in that video screen there. The syncing of that. So what happens is you have, if you're a part, and this is crazy that BMI got bought out recently, but so I'm a BMI artist now, so I'm a little worried about what's happening there, but we'll see what happens there. But anyway, so you have a performance rights organization that watches over kind of your music and sees where is this being performed, right? Is it being covered? Is it being put into movies? Is someone playing it in a bar somewhere? Is it being played over radio somewhere? Whatever, right? And they're watching over your songwriting rights. And the only way that they can do that is if you actually register your music. And it's a very strange thing to get into if you're used to regular business practices, because of the way that music licensing and performance rights organizations do things. They calculate everything based on 200%, which is very strange for people when they first see this. And you have your writing rights, which is the person that writes the songs, and then you have your publishing rights, and that is, I would say, my best piece of advice to any new songwriters out there is, one, register your songs with a performance rights organization so that no one could just take your song and just produce it or perform it without you getting paid. And I tell this to every performing musician: register your songs so that you can register every time you perform them live and get your royalties from the dues that the venue is already paying to those performance rights organizations, because otherwise they're taking it, or the big musicians are taking it after the end of like whatever it is, 5 years, where it just gets distributed to the bigger musicians anyway. But register it, and then you have 100% of your writing rights, and then there's the publishing rights. And generally with a publishing deal, or if you want to sync it to a movie or whatever, you end up selling a portion of your publishing rights, right? But don't ever get rid of your writing rights, because that's when you've now sold the song to someone else. And so the reason that I feel like publishing and sync is where the money is now is because there's so much content being made now. Yes. And things like Bridgerton, right, are taking songs that have already been written, and Aerosmith is one of the biggest things, like on TikTok. That song, I remember playing, I forget the name of it now, but it was a big oh no, oh no, oh no, 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 no. I played that. I was learning to cover it, that song. I think it's, I know
what you're talking about.
It was big on TikTok, but it's just a resampled version, a little higher pitched version of that song. But every time that song gets played, every time that loop gets played, Aerosmith gets paid on that. And so the sync licensing thing is taking your publishing and allowing people to use the written song in any way they want. Like, for instance, Bridgerton, right? They're taking it, they're reusing it, the composition, the written song, and then performing it in a different way. So they're taking the publishing part of that. Yes, they're getting paid because they had a part in that, but then the writer also gets paid. So if Steven Tyler wrote it, he's going to get a portion of that. And I think that's where kind of music business is going. Songwriters, and then people performing it. And I feel like the older I get, Dani, the more I get into I just want to write and have other people perform it, because I'm tired of carrying around amps and guitars and all that.
It's a lot of energy.
So do you feel like the people that you've gotten involved with lately or recently, like what do you find, I guess, younger musicians, people in Nashville and what have you, are they writing? Are they performing? Like, what's the dream, I guess, of the generation that's coming of musicians? Do you have an idea?
People I work with do both. A lot of them, they write and they perform. I have one client, Sarah Housen. She writes, but she'll also write like with other artists, but then she'll also be a performer. Then she'll also be her own artist. So that seems to be pretty common, I would say, for artists to like write with other artists, and then also like write for their own music and then perform as well. But it just depends on every single artist's individual goals.
You've done some co-writing, right?
I've only done co-writing. I mean, I guess I've written songs by myself, but nothing that's been like out. Everything that's out is with someone else. So co-writing has been something I learned back when I went to camp when I was 14 for this music camp. And so I grew up learning to write with other people for years. So I'm all about co-writing. Yeah.
So how does that process, if you go into a room with someone, do you generally know them already? Or is it something where there's...
Yeah. I would say mostly people that I already know have been writing with me, has been mostly people like I've connected with in person at one point or the other. You can write with people you don't know. I've definitely mostly written with people that I've met before or that I know or have met virtually. The process just depends on every single individual. Sometimes I'll have lyrics and just give them to someone to help write melody for. Sometimes I'll have lyrics and they'll help with the lyrics and the melody. Sometimes people will play guitar and I'll just write melodies on the spot and we'll use part of that. So it really depends.
So if you go into a room, do you generally like go into a room with someone and they have a guitar, or Like what explain, because again,
Yeah.
this is called the songwriter's couch, right? So I want to expose like how this stuff is done, right? Because it's such a mysterious thing to people that don't write songs. Like how does a song come about? And I've equated this to listening to what's already there. Like I feel like I don't necessarily like I sort of create the song, or I sort of write it, but it comes from somewhere, right? And when you're co-writing with someone, that can be a little different, right? Because you're both sitting in the room, and maybe this person has this idea on what the song should be, or they have a riff, or they have a lyric, but the other person comes in with this completely almost competing idea, or a better version of it, or it's exactly on point. So if you go into a room, I know you said you generally know the person that you're getting into the room with, which makes sense, because you have to almost be having a conversation before you get in there. Like you need to know where each other are at. How does that generally start? Because co-writing can be intimidating, I think, for people,
Yeah. I would say a lot of times with me, I'll sit down with someone and say, what's on your mind? What's going, especially with women, like what's going on in your life? Like what can we write about? What are you passionate about talking about? And a lot of times for me, it's definitely being guy related, relationship related, some kind of dynamic related, heartbreak related, or toxic relationship related, like something like that. So I will use all of that to channel really cool songs, or like women empowerment, like women being respected, women self-love, like all those kinds of themes. So I think it just depends on, what you and the other person are kind of feeling makes sense. I'm pretty easygoing. So if someone's like, I really want to talk about this, I'm like, cool, we could do that. We could compromise. Like, I'm never like, it's my way or the highway. We have to do it this way. It's always like, it's collaboration. It's a team effort. So I feel like that's really important. I would say the other really important thing is to kind of figure out the splits before you start writing with each other. Because like for Nashville, a lot of times we just split everything like evenly, like no matter what, because it's just easier. I think when you get into like, oh, I wrote only 5 sentences and you wrote 7 and I should make more money, and like that, to me it just seems like I don't like that like mindset. I'd rather just split things no matter what, but that's just me. And I also don't really play instruments, so for me it's just easier. But yeah,
even being in a band, like I have a full band, you know what I mean? And I even if I come into the band and I bring the song and I've written the song, I feel like everything should be split in that environment. And I think most of the bands that have made it and been successful in that regard have always split it evenly amongst, because like if my drummer didn't write the drum part that he wrote to a particular song, even though I came up with the concept of the song, the general riff of the song, without that drum part, it wouldn't be the song that it is without his drum part, and so I 100% agree on that. So, but let me ask you this, because that I think comes from my my feeling that writing music is it's like a sharing of the relationship that you have with the other person. And the reason I say that is because my older brother was a musician too. My dad is a musician, and it's in my family. And so when I was younger and I started writing music and I started playing music, it was never about money or a business thing. It was like a relationship thing. It was like me and my older brother talking to each other through our guitars, you know what I mean? Or writing the music. Did you have family members that were musicians? Like, how did you get into doing music? Because I feel like some people have doctors and lawyers in their family, and then they end up becoming doctors and lawyers. And I feel like it's the same thing with musicians. Like you end up, your dad's a musician, your mom's a musician, your uncle, whatever. And then you're like, I want to do that. And then you start hanging out with them more. You start conversing with them around that. Did you have family members that were musicians, or was it?
My grandma sang, so she was a singer, so I guess it came in our genes in that way. And my siblings sing. And my dad's cousin, I think second cousin or third cousin, is Linda Creed. So she's like a famous songwriter who helped write with the Stylistics, The Greatest Love of All. So I feel like that's kind of cool. And then my mom's cousin is also a musician, and I think he wrote music for The Mask. So he used to like know Jim Carrey, which is kind of cool. So I would say like more on my mom's side. I don't think, I guess Linda Creed on my dad's side, but my parents don't sing or anything like that.
Or
what?
Neither of your parents are musicians at all?
No. Well, no, but my dad did play. I mean, he has played piano. So he used to play Paul Simon a lot when I was a kid. So I kind of grew up, like with that. So I guess you can kind of count that. And then my parents would always put on like sing-alongs and Disney and like every like musical, like everything singing when I was like 2 years old. So I grew up with the TV with like all like the sing-alongs, all the Disney on Ice. Like, so I was very exposed to that as a kid. And then my mom and dad both loved Mamma Mia. So like learning ABBA and stuff. So they always were huge fans of the theater. They've always like go to all like the musicals and like supported like me and my siblings all like in the musicals and like all the things, but they didn't really sing themselves. But my dad has played piano, so I guess you can kind of count that, but he doesn't like sing or anything like that.
How many siblings you guys?
I have two, one brother and one sister.
So are they musicians as well?
They can sing, so but I wouldn't like call them like musicians. Like they don't like write original stuff, at least as far as I know. My brother has made up stuff a lot in the past, I would say. My sister loves karaoke and stuff, and they both can sing. Like my siblings can sing, but I wouldn't call them like musicians.
Middle child, or are you the youngest, or?
I'm the oldest, actually.
Oldest, okay.
Yeah.
Leading the pack. So, but what got you into like wanting to do music as like your thing? Because it's a tough industry to pursue as a career. Like
I would say when I was 14, going to an overnight camp for music, that was like the thing that clicked in my head when I was like in the studio and learning how to write with other people. Like we had this music director, and he was like, okay, go write a song. And then I did. And he's like, okay, now I'm going to create guitar for that song. Like we had to write like the melody and the lyrics. And then he would like come up with the guitar, and then he'd go let us record the song. And it was like the coolest thing in the entire world. And I was like, I love being in the studio. This is so fun. So I would say like that was one of like the first times. But I also like sang in like the talent shows, and I was in like 6th grade. I always like loved musical theater and like the theater and the arts. So I was singing, honestly, like there's films of me like being like one, singing nursery rhymes and dressing up. So it was like really something I did since I was like born.
In your blood. I feel like that's a recurring theme. Like, so I have two kids, Dani, right? So my son, learned to play drums a little bit when he was younger. And I think that he was in the school band, and he kind of it taught him out of playing music. Like it bored him, I think, a little bit and whatever, and he got out of it. Maybe he'll get back into it because he's good. He's very good at saxophone. He did drums. He learned a little bit of guitar or whatever, and just ended up like not being into it. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to push you to do it. But my daughter, on the other hand, is is a performer. Like she loves being on stage. It's theater, it's music, it's like anything. She acting, if she can be on stage, like in that world, I almost feel like it's a part of your DNA. Mm-hmm. To be a performer, mm-hmm. to write and create. And even this, like I see you creating businesses and things like that. I think that creative, that need to create is something that's mm-hmm. in you, that's why I'm asking about like your family and stuff, because I feel like it comes from somewhere, whether it be like in your distant relatives or what have you, or it's in your immediate family, Yeah. Like, do you feel like there's like, if you're not making things, whatever that is, do you feel like, yeah, I know. I can tell
like even entrepreneurship is creative. Like having a business is creative. Like, I could never just sit there and do accounting. Actually, I don't hate accounting, but like only for my own business, right? But that's just fun because you're like, oh, I made money here. But like, I couldn't just work for someone and just do accounting or like something. Like, I also have ADHD, and I think that's a very common thing with creative people. So it's really hard to like sit still doing things that we don't have an interest in. It's really, really, really hard. And so entrepreneurship, I think, is so fun because you get to be creative, Same with creating TV shows. Like, I worked on a TV show that I can't talk much about right now, but I've worked on it since 2020, and just like create, like, it's all about being creative and creating. And I have those other shows I want to create too, and movies and stuff. And it's just because I love creating, It's like entrepreneurship is creating, music is creating, all the businesses I create are like creating. It's all art, at the end of the day.
You're producing the TV show, or are you directing? What's
I'm the creator and producer. And we have an executive producer on board, and I can't talk much about it right now, but it's something we started in 2020. So I've loved the process of it, and I want to create.
That year, there wasn't much that got in the way of production in 2020, right?
Yeah, it's a whole story.
I'm joking, because I think COVID was 2020.
Yeah. No, we all had nothing better to do, so that was actually how we created it. And found people for stuff, but I can't talk much about it right now. But my point is just that it's all related to creativity. I mean, even when I was like, I don't know, 10, I remember like I had all these babysitters, and like we would create all these like plays or like films and like movies and like make up all this stuff. And so like I was just in all of this creativity stuff since I was like really young, so it's just always kind of been there in my DNA.
Can I ask you, so as you get older now, right, and you get into adulthood, sometimes I feel nowadays, right, even though I'm doing this stuff and I'm making money off stuff, sometimes it feels like you're playing pretend, mm-hmm. even though like you're making mm-hmm. money off. Like, it feels like this shouldn't be what I'm able to do for money, if that makes mm-hmm. sense. Like, but I can't stop, Dani. Can't stop doing this. Can't stop making stuff, for God's sakes. Someone come help me. I'm trapped here in my basement making stuff. No, but so like, do you feel? And the reason I ask this is because, again, this is the songwriter's couch, and sometimes young people have this idea, like, okay, they've done this. They've created a TV show, they've created a song, they've created a band, someone has written and directed a movie, but I can never possibly do that, right? Mm. There's this idea that there are these special people that are doing this. Yeah, I see. there are these special people that are doing this, and you know, I don't come from a family that does all this, and you know, I don't have money to make movies, and blah 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 blah. And then you know, and I have that thought sometimes too, where I'm like, what am I, you know, am I doing this? Should I just get a job? Should I go back to school and become a lawyer and just become a lawyer and do that? Or should I continue to do what I love? And I end up all the time back here. Like what keeps you going at what you're doing? And then do you have moments where you question what you're doing? Because I think it's important for people to know that even people that are doing things that are people that are making moves, and I hate that term or whatever, the people that are successful at a creative field, I feel like you create something and then it's the next, you have to go on to the next thing. That's the creative thing. Like, okay, you created this thing, now it's the next thing. Now you can't even enjoy the success of this before you're already on to the next thing, because it's not necessarily the creating and the award getting, it's the creation that's the reward in it. You get what I'm saying? Like, what keeps you going, and is it?
So I would say, like, whenever you want to pursue something, you have to ask yourself, like, what is the feeling you actually want? Because usually the things we want actually is about the feeling, not the actual thing. And this is what I teach, you know, people a lot when it comes to manifesting what you want in your life, especially money. Like, we're like, okay, we want to be rich, we want money, but like, why? Like, what is it that you actually want with the things that you want? Why do you want to be famous? Well, what is it going to do? Okay, well, it's going to make me feel powerful. It's going to make me feel connected. It's going to give me opportunities. And that's going to make me feel confident. That's going to make me feel powerful. That's going to make me feel happy. That's going to make me feel fulfilled. That's going to make me feel purposeful. And so it's really important for people, whenever they're pursuing any goals, is to ask, like, what do you actually, like what is the feeling you actually want? Like, why do you actually want this? Because being an entrepreneur, being an artist is not easy. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to sometimes want to quit. You might want to quit every day, but you have to have a why. Like, what drives you? Like, for me, it's like whatever I create, whether it's my TV shows, my movies in the future, my music, my company, my services, my mentorship, it's all about empowering other people. And so, like, that's my why. Like, why do I want to empower people? Because it makes me feel like I have a purpose in life. It makes me feel like I'm here for a reason. It helps align with a mission bigger than just ego, bigger than just like, I just want it so people tell me I'm great. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that, yeah, sometimes that, like, the artist thing can be misconstrued for wanting attention. And I don't think that's necessarily it. I think what's happening is you're expressing a very vulnerable part of yourself, and hoping that you can connect with a lot of people, like hoping that there's a lot of people out there that also maybe feel that way or what have you. And I think that's part of, you know, I've talked about this on the show too before. When you're on stage and you're performing live, it's like a relationship, not only with the band on stage with each other, but the audience is also looking at that connection. But then you're also, especially as a lead singer or a front man, you're connecting directly with the crowd also. So you're having like a relationship with the crowd. But then if you're recording music, it's a little strange, because you put a piece of music out there and people might be connecting to it, but you don't know that they're connecting to it. And then they come out to a show and they say, you know, oh, this song that, you know, I've been listening to this song years or whatever. And that, I think, is what creatives are reaching for. And it's not, and I think the fame is the, it's like the cartoon version, the distilled version of a lot of people are connecting with what I'm saying. It's not necessarily, people don't want to be famous where they get recognized and people try and get into their bathroom stalls while they're going to the bathroom, right? That's not the part of fame that
No, thank you.
everyone says they hate that, right? When they get famous, but it's the fact that your art and your exposing of the vulnerable parts of you are being connected to by people. And same goes with business. I mean, you make a product. I've owned businesses, I've owned bars and what have you. And even just watching people enjoy, like it was a restaurant that I owned, restaurant bar, enjoying the food that I came up with was fulfilling because I like that food. And then this person likes that food. So that means that I have some sort of a connection with them. And not only do I have a connection with them, I've brought about the connection with them. And it's hard sometimes as an artist because you can be, your emotions can be dependent upon that connection too. So you have these big ups, these big downs.
That's why I feel like it's so important for people to stay really grounded and to find fulfillment without needing it for outside of themselves, which is not easy, especially with social media. It makes it very like, give me likes or I don't feel good about myself. But it's so important to find what fulfills you inside so that when you do become really successful, you're not going into those necessarily huge crashes because you're staying grounded enough to like stay present and not just be like, oh my God, this is too much for me or whatever, right? So I think it's so important to figure out what makes you happy, like find happiness in the simple things in life, whether it's like talking to friends, whether it's writing a song, whether it's meditating, whether it's listening to music that makes you happy, like having a list of things you can go to stay grounded that makes you happy. So in general, when you have like those stressors or anxiety or like feel like you're going to fail, you can be like, okay, what do I need right now in this moment? Is it I need to take a bath? Is it I need to call a friend? Is it I need to go write a song? Is it I need to go scream into a pillow? Like, what do I need? And I think the more people can get like really focused on like fulfilling themselves and making themselves okay, like the more all the other stuff they'll enjoy without making it their bane of their existence of like happiness or not.
Yeah, and I think social media tends to emphasize the superficial part of that connection desire, like the desire to connect with other people. And I think creatives get pulled into that a lot because you have to kind of promote your artwork or whatever in order for people to even see it, to get connected to it. And so you can get wrapped up in this world of like developing an image and doing the selling of the image part and the product. And I think that's why sometimes when people get really, they get a lot of recognition for their work or whatever, and they're artists, they tend to, they get called selling out or whatever. But they become unhappy because it's like a fake version of what they're looking for, out there. And I think that this generation has become disconnected from the things that can really give them joy and make them be connected to other people through things like the likes on Instagram and all that, because it's such a fake version of it. Like if you didn't get enough likes on your post, some people don't even post anything, like they didn't create anything, they just want the likes there, they just want the like dopamine hit of people.
It is a dopamine hit. It is a total addiction.
It's a real sign for I think why creatives and people that are making things that like music and art and the like really have an opportunity now to, like I remember back in the 90s there was a rebellion against the hair bands and this like commercial thing, right? And that's where kind of Nirvana came out of, and the whole Seattle movement and all that. And I think right now there's an opportunity for artists right now to really break through and say, we're all in this together. Everyone seems disjointed and on opposite sides of things, but there's an opportunity for real art to come out. And I'm hopeful. I posted this somewhere on Facebook recently. I'm hopeful because I see it. I see it in the my daughter's 13 now. I see it in her age group where they're like, I don't give a shit about Instagram and Facebook. They don't even like want to be on any of that stuff. Like, why would we even care about any of that? And so I'm hopeful, and I think that that our generation of people that had to grow up in this like hyper advertising environment, I guess you can call it, have the opportunity to help those artists come out. And you're doing that by starting companies like what you're doing, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you, because I feel like you reach out to people and you say, I want to help you get your art out there.
Yes.
And so what I guess what keeps you going? I would suppose it's probably finding good artists, where you're like, wow, this is really great what they're doing.
What keeps me going?
And then secondly, like where do you see yourself, moving what you're doing in the near future, I guess next few years? What do you see yourself pursuing? Like, do you see yourself as more of an artist? Do you see yourself?
I'm thinking about your first question, which is what keeps me going. I would say tapping into my purpose of like being here on this planet, of like making an impact and like feeling strongly about that. So yeah, like when I post about something on Facebook and people comment and say, wow, I needed to hear this today. Or an artist that's like a beginner that does PR for their first time. They're like, I was so nervous, but this went really great. Like, to me, that feels really good, right? Hearing back from my clients about how, much I've helped them. Or like my classes, I just taught 2 classes back to back for 6 months at a time. And just seeing the difference that I've made in those artists' lives of like how much more shows they got booked when they shifted their mindset and built their confidence and got clear on what they wanted. So I would say my biggest reason for keep going is impact, like the impact that I'm able to make on people's lives. And like, that's really powerful to me. I've always felt really strongly about making impact. I did like the compilation album for the Linda Creed Breast Cancer Foundation. I did a fundraiser for Ukraine in Nashville, like last year, I think it was, like this like songwriter thing. I just did a compilation album for Hawaii. And so impact, I would say, is like the reason to keep going, is like the impact I can create in other people's lives, no matter what I'm doing, like inspiring other people. When people email me and say like, oh my God, those words were amazing. I'm so happy that you sent that email. You're so right. Like, I would say the level of impact I can create is definitely one of the biggest reasons. Okay, what was your other question?
So, well, it's interesting because you've also taken the tactic or the stance to assist other artists with, pushing their career, right? A lot of artists, especially, I'm going to keep calling you young, but
I love it. Thank you. I'm 20 today.
So like younger artists tend to be very, I want to be famous and I want to be, I want to make it as an artist myself, and don't take the tract of, I want to help other also, be successful. So it's an interesting like turn that I feel like you're, which is why I was interested, because I feel like you were already years ago when I friended you on Facebook, were doing that. You were already like, okay, I want to help other musicians, other artists, do things. And while there's a monetary aspect to that, I don't think that's what's driving you, because you wouldn't do that, just based on the money. Because in the beginning, especially, there's no money in it, right? So you're like, I'm going to help you, even though there's a strong possibility that I'm not going to make money off of what I'm doing here. I just want to help you see the joy of reaching a small goal, if that.
So I would argue that fact, because it's like running a business. Like any artists that work with me, it is absolutely a paid service. I'm not like a manager or anything like that. So definitely make money with what I do, not like doing it just for fun. But the music blog, when I first started, was definitely like really cool to just create, just to help others, and the compilation albums, of course, and stuff I'm raising money for. But I would say money is definitely like an important part of it, because, just like understanding your value and understanding your worth and getting paid for what you're worth. And like, I'd be hypocritical if I didn't believe in myself to tell other people to believe in themselves and get paid. But what was I going to say? Oh, so you said something about being an artist, helping other artists. Yes. So I feel like for me, like, having this business and like being on the business side is like my way to like support myself financially. And then I do want to go use some of that to create music in the future. And I'm not like, hey, I'm not doing music anymore, but I have put music more on the side at the moment to work with artists to support myself, which is super important. But also it's like, when I do music stuff, it can also help other people too. For example, like I got signed to a sync agency, which I haven't really talked about much at all in the past year. And so anyone that I've written music with, or anyone I write music with in the future, that's like leverage for them, right? Because then I can just pitch it automatically to them, for example. And then, working in the TV and film world, which I've focused on for 4 years, building the show and all the things, that is also going to help me have a lot of leverage once that show is created. Even future movies I'm creating, like, will be able to help me help others, right? So like making money doing those things, and then pulling people that I already work with or know, like, hey, can you make a song for this movie? Can you write a song for this show? Like, I have a client here that needs, a song written about blank. Can you? And I did that. Like, I had a client who had all these lyrics, and he is not like a songwriter. Like, technically he's a songwriter, but like he never wrote melodies. And I matched him with people that he paid for to work with, that can help him write melodies, people that recorded his music. And now we're doing PR for like the songs and for him as a songwriter. And like, it's just from the amount of people I've connected with to be able to give those opportunities. So it kind of just all goes together, I would say. But I do want to do more music, and I do miss like being in the studios and writing. But I also really have fun on the business side as well. But to answer your other question, like the future, I definitely see myself like running production companies. Like, I want to produce, I want to create movies, I want to create TV shows, I want to be one of the most connected people in the sync licensing world, just because I think that would be fun. And being an artist, then I can also get my own music and projects. So yeah. And then maybe someone else will run my music division, or I also thought about like having a label in the future, but I don't know. I feel like the sky's kind of the limit.
Yeah, I've thought about the label thing, right? Like being your own label, especially just like locally. And you're in Nashville, which is a great place to be. And I think there's a lot of local young artists that can be helped by even just a little bit of a small little tiny label that's willing to distribute them, maybe record them or whatever, and maybe help like, hey, sync, like for sync and stuff, like check this out at least. And I think that I'm in the same boat. Like as I get
younger.
as I age like a fine cheese, as they say, I find myself I find myself not only wanting to spread kind of the knowledge that I've learned over the years about what the music business is, but help, because I remember when I was younger, it was a whole different world back there before computers and all that. I'm real old, Dani. Recording on 4-track tape recorders and stuff like that, and doing stuff. But like help record people, get them out into the, into distribution, because there's musicians that I see performing out there just at open mics and stuff that are amazing, like amazing songwriters that just need to be like heard. And I don't know if I'm just like in this cloud world of like, I love musicians, so I fall in love with these songs that they write, but I think there's so much talent out there and so much fresh material, and in the world where we're getting material from AI,
Mm-hmm.
like I think there's a market out there for it too. So let's do this, because I think we're coming up here on something, an hour or two, or wherever.
I think we're on 1 hour and 6 minutes.
1 hour, 6 minutes. So we'll call it here. But I do want to get into the not today, but I'd like to have you on again at some point in the future if you're interested, of course. And maybe I'll come down to Nashville and we could do a live, because I'm down there every once in a while. I have a nice Airbnb that I go to all the time that's down there. But I wanted to get into the technical parts of like sync licensing and all that kind of stuff. What's in that? And like you said with Bridgerton, licensing a song that's already been written and then re-performing it, because there's money to be made there too. So, but for now, let's end it. And I want to say you were a great guest tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Tired, and then I'm not tired anymore now that I'm talking. So so what do you want to promote? What do you want people to see, hear, listen to, go to, links, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, definitely. So I have, I'll say them really quick. I have I have 3 new ways to work with me. The first level is basically a Facebook group of artists. And I'm going to be posting like journal prompts and like opportunities I learn about in sync, in songwriting, in performance, and whatever I learned about, I'm pretty much putting into this Facebook group. And then that's like level 1. And then you'll also get access to this like audio messages about just like business and mindset and life and music, and basically the journey and like all the lessons I'm learning in real time. And then level 2 is people get to have access to me like once a week for the year. It's like they're all 12 months. And then they also can select one mentor per month in whatever it is that they want to focus on. So whether they want to learn sync licensing, talk to supervisors, talk to publishers, learn about making money with like brand deals, making money with live performances, getting live performance training, talking to booking agents, etc. And then the third level is 2 calls a month. They also get into our sync program, which is where we pitch their music to music, TV, film, and libraries, or sync agencies. And then, so that's pretty much the 3 programs. And then they can just learn about that by going to musicindustryAccess.com.
It's pretty good. Yeah. So let me ask you this, being that you're in Nashville, right? And you've been there a few years, right?
Yes.
Do you eat meat? Are you a vegetarian, or do you eat meat?
Oh, do I eat meat? I thought you said, did we meet?
Meat at all?
I was like, I don't think we met. No, I'm not a vegetarian. Right. But I have been. Yeah, sorry.
Barbecue place in Nashville?
Favorite barbecue place? Is that what you said? Edley's? Edley's is so good.
What do you get from there, Edley's?
Mashed potatoes and turkey, and they have like the best banana pudding.
Turkey from a barbecue? What kind of turkey is it? Like a whole?
Or chicken? I don't know if it's like turkey or chicken.
You don't do the ribs or brisket?
No. No, but I'm sure the brisket's really good, but I don't think so. I usually have white meat, not dark meat, or like not red meat. Sorry. Like I don't have like pork or like hamburgers. Like I mean, I can, but like I just.
What's your favorite food in that? If you were to recommend a restaurant, because I'm super into food, Dani. So if you were to recommend a place, someone comes down to Nashville, young songwriter, let's say, comes down, right? They got a gig finally in Nashville. They're ready to play Nashville. And they want to eat.
I like Edley's. Like, if you want barbecue food, like Edley's. I like True Food Kitchen, which is like a healthy restaurant place. Because I like healthy stuff. But like Edley's is really good. I think. I mean, Martin's is too, and the other ones. But I really like Edley's.
So chicken, mashed potatoes, you said?
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of mashed potatoes. I don't know why. I like roasted potatoes.
I don't know if we can be friends anymore. Mashed potatoes are the best.
Why? Like the mashed potatoes. Grits I like. I like grits, which is weird.
That's a Nashville thing. Nashville has lots of grits.
Nashville hot chicken. Do you like the hot chicken?
Yeah, that's a thing. I don't really have spicy food a lot, but yes, that's definitely a thing.
How about this? Venue to go see new artists down in there.
Anywhere, I would say in East Nashville, which I can't think of right now, but like all the music, all the rock venues,
Not Broadway.
Well, you know what? If you've never been to Broadway, you should definitely check out Broadway, but it's not my thing. It's very loud, a lot of people, just not my thing.
Yeah, so that's kind of a new or a new person to Nashville thing, because you're going to want to go down on Broadway. You're going to want to see bands there, whatever. But it's mostly cover bands. It's like it's kind of cool because there's music just everywhere. It's like white noise as you're walking down the street, because there's hundreds and thousands of people or whatever as you're walking down, and there's just music on all floors of every building. But mostly cover bands and all that. And I agree with you. East side of Nashville is the place to go, because cool little places, and Nashville in general is a cool little city.
It is definitely.
So if they want to sponsor you, again, what's the name of that restaurant? Eddie's?
Edley's.
I'm gonna have to go down, because I don't know if I've been to Edley's. I had some.
It's so good. I would go there like right now. It's like good.
All right. There's a vegetarian place on. I've played there a bunch of times too. They do like an open mic thing.
I think I know what you're talking about. That's really close to me, but I don't know the name of it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's real good. But then I'm not into ribs, but I went to some place, the deep fried ribs. I got to find the name of that place. I'll promote it.
They deep fry everything in Nashville.
Did I try everything in Nashville either?
They deep fry everything in Nashville.
Oh, do they? Yeah, but deep fried rib, like I don't like ribs.
I think so. Everything's fried. I mean, not everything, but like the Nashville food.
Much meat on the ribs, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, I just wasn't interested in it. But the deep fried thing, it's fucking delicious. Deep fry a rib every once in a while. I put a little coating on it.
Yeah, all of that is super good here. Yes.
I'm gonna call it Dani episode, and I have to have you on again, okay?
Sure. Absolutely, I'd love to be on again.
So,
I don't know what you just said.
Locked in. Please go down, subscribe, comment. Again, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you to Seed and Stone and our other sponsors for sponsoring the episode. I had a great time. I was drinking whiskey this time, so I apologize to Seed and Stone. I don't have any cider here, but I'll refill this week, I promise. And Dani, again, thank you for being on the show one more time. The website was
DaniFelt.com. Or musicindustryAccess.com or musicindustrymastery.com. I have 3 websites. It's fine.
and thank you everyone. Have a great holiday. I think this will be out before the holidays. If not, hope you have a great holiday. And Dani, thank you for being on the episode. I appreciate it. And see you guys on the next one.